Okay. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai. Hare Krishna Chandrika Radha. So I did not attend the last session, but we completed Queen Kunti Maharani's prayers. Did everybody manage to read all the verses? Like at least the four of us? I did. I didn't
Yes, we
know.
did. Yeah.
You did. Okay, wonderful. And the whole idea was to pull one point from something that really, really resonated with you, something that you would like to include it in your own prayer to Krishna. Did y'all get a chance to do that? You did? Shifali is nodding no. But, maybe something you can think about. So, just what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just key things into one sheet, key lessons from Kunti Maharani's prayers into like one page. That way we can just look at that and select, because even when we shorten the verses, or even when we take only the verses together, it's still expensive. So what we can do is we can definitely try to, okay, I'm going to ask this question again because I see quite a few. Dula joined and Aditi joined, and iPhone 5, I don't know who that is, but so did you all get a chance to take at least one um, feeling or emotion from Kunti Maharani's prayers, and something that you would like to include in your prayers? Did you all find something? Did you all get a chance to find something? Chandrika Radha, Dula, Anuradha? Yes, no?
Yes, Mataji.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. What about you, Dula?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great, perfect. I don't know if Anuradha Sakhi is here, but that's pretty good. If we're able to even take one point. But I will put together one pager anyway, and then we can again look at it and see what really resonates with us. But we're starting with Bhishma Dev's prayers, and the whole scene of, it's not an ideal situation for prayer, right? I mean, how intense. Just imagine, there's something called as in between stress. Like, you're in your comfort zone, and then you're in your stretch zone, and then you're beyond your stretch zone. And I'm thinking that I don't know, I don't think this can be comfort zone for Bhishma Dev too, because in comfort zone, or this can't be the stretch zone either, because in the stretch zone you can make progress, right? But if you're looking at him laying on a bed of arrows, not for hours, for days, and what is he hearing about? This one passed away, this one was killed, that one was killed, and so and so was killed. I'm going to open the door for, I'm in DC office. Come in, Pancharatna Prabhu. You like to say Hare Krishna to, this is Pancharatna Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada disciple here.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
If you don't mind closing the door when you leave, Prabhu, that would be, thank you. So we're at the leadership conference in DC, and I'm trying to find a space to just do before we go for our meetings. But it's so wonderful because today the theme of the lecture has been leadership lessons. And I was actually going to tie it in with Bhishma Dev's prayers as we go along. So just imagine the situation for Bhishma Dev is not ideal. Absolutely not ideal. And we complain that when our situation is, just a little bit uncomfortable, and we forget. But look at the situation. Let's look at the verses and break it through, and you'll see how Bhishma Dev, in spite of being on the bed of arrows, he's now actually clearing things out of his life to finally, just refine and define his purpose in life. So let me share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my screen? Give me a second.
Yes, Mataji, I can see.
Thank you. Okay. So in the first verse, which is this 32nd verse, it's extremely beautiful because here Bhishma Dev has already started to talk. Initially he's just waiting. And Srila Prabhupada explains something so beautiful in this purport. He says, now just look at the words. It's amazing how these words are used. Here he says that let me now invest my thinking. Because you can be thinking of so many things. Like I can be thinking about my grocery list. I'm thinking about what I'm going to, I have to do a presentation in the next hour to all these senior leaders. And I'm thinking, first of all, I'm going to sweat it. There's like about 8 sannyasis sitting in the room. And so my mind is already like, I'm thinking, just because of stressful situations, our thinking is the first thing that we lose. So he says, let my thinking. Without thinking, how can you have feeling? So he said, let my thinking, my feeling, and my willing. The three very important tridents of our consciousness: thinking, feeling, and willing. I could think, I am thinking about chanting my rounds, and then I am feeling, yes, I should. I feel inspired. I should chant my rounds. And then the whole point is, am I willing to do what it takes to chant my 16 rounds, irrespective, right? Similarly, for us, we decided we want to read, prayers from Bhagavatam. And the minute I said, okay, let's do this as a systematic course, I worked out my calendar in such a way that, I'm going to free up time. I'm going to dedicate Saturday mornings to being with you all. And then what happened? My aunt got sick. My aunt passed away. And this is Ananda Vrindavaneshwari. Ananda, you're going to say Haribol to my class here. She gave such a beautiful Bhagavatam class here. This is we read prayers from Bhagavatam every Saturday. It's good. She's the temple president for DC, and wonderful Vaishnavi. So she gave an amazing class this morning, and I love to touch on it. So the three tridents of our consciousness, which is thinking, feeling, and willing. In this space, it's not going to be easy to come to the point of being willing, right? He had a choice of, like they said, there's a beautiful, portion in Mahabharata where he says that, they give him comfortable pillows. They say, okay, we can remove these arrows. We'll take you back to a shed and you can pass whenever whenever you're ready to leave this mortal world, you can pass then. And he says, no, just leave me here. Give me also pillows made of arrows, because that's more suitable in this situation, right? So thinking, feeling, and willing. What happens to all of this when they're invested Invested in who? When all three of these are invested in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Bhishma Dev is saying here that now I'm done. I'm done with all my management duties. I'm done with all my occupational duties. Please let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing into Lord Krishna. And you see the word that is being used, all powerful Lord Krishna. Why? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to come to the point of being willing to do something, because there is going to be obstacles. And like I was explaining, I said, I really, I took the time to carve out this time in my schedule, but something or the other will come. And I have to still say, okay, I'm going to be thinking, I'm going to be willing, I am going to be doing this, irrespective, whether it means sitting in the accounts office of ISKCON of DC, it doesn't matter, right? So similarly for you, you probably have so many other things to do, and you're carving out time to read, and you're carving out time to be together. This is for us. This is expressing our willingness to read Srila Prabhupada's purports. This is expressing our willingness to be able to absorb our mind and consciousness in Krishna. And very beautifully in this particular verse also, Bhishma Dev now starts to describe, why is this person worthy of me investing my thinking, feeling, and willing? Why is this person worthy? He's worthy because he's self-satisfied. He does not need anyone else to complete him. Second, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to this material world. So that means he's not from this world. He's not another mortal being that I'm absorbing my mind in. I'm absorbing my mind in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all powerful. From him, I will get the strength. That is why it begins with, let me now invest. It doesn't say, I will invest. It says, let me now invest. It's also a request for the strength to invest my mind in Krishna. Sometimes we feel we can do it by ourselves, but not necessarily. In fact, 100% not necessarily, because we need the Lord. And these are just, some things that were noted from my notes from when I read it. Why Sasukham? Sasukham, because he has attained self-satisfaction. He doesn't need us to complete him. He's complete. Yesterday, Gaurang Prabhu gave a very beautiful lecture in Bhagavatam class in the morning, and he said something really beautiful. He said, many times people come to me and say, I'm lonely, and I tell them, okay, if you're lonely, then practice solitude. And he said, people look at me like, isn't lonely and solitude the same thing? So he was explaining, the whole lecture was actually decoding the two words, loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a feeling where you're incomplete. You need somebody to complete you. You're looking at mortal beings with the feeling that they can complete you. Solitude is when you're trying to connect internally with Paramatma and externally with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing that he's eagerly waiting to connect with you. So the process of going from loneliness to solitude is actually the journey of a devotee. Like we may have a million relationships, we may have, but there's always moments where we will feel lonely, where we are lonely. because not everyone is going to be with you at all moments of your life. Even if it's your close, it's your husband, it's your wife, or it's your children, or it's your family, or it's your mother. All these relationships, either they leave us because of circumstances, or they leave us because of kala, because of time. So here, Bhishma Dev is explaining in this very particular verse that let me now put all my three elements, my will, my thinking, my feeling, my willing, into the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because He is worthy of that. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, actually, he mentions that I offer only my thoughts without desire to Him, who is the very source of Narayan. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually, he's thinking that, I am the Lord, I'm sitting here, and the Lord has come to visit me. Because Krishna comes to see Bhishma Dev, right? With Yudhishthir Maharaj. So he said, what is something that you want to do when the Lord visits you? You want to gift him something. You want to offer him something. So the Lord has come to visit me. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Bhishma Dev reflects, my master has come to see me. So I must gift him something. Now, in his circumstance, he's not sitting in his palace. He doesn't have anything. What does he have to gift? The best gift. I should offer my thoughts. Why? Because that's the best gift I have. And how should these thoughts be? Without any desire. Now I don't have any desire. You look in Kunti Maharani's prayers, she desired. She desired association of Krishna. Right? There was some desire. Even though it is the most beautiful desire, he's saying, I have no desire. My desire is fulfilled simply by you visiting me. And now, just as an offering to you, let me offer my thoughts. What a beautiful meditation, that understanding that we must offer something to the Lord and the devotees who are who we consider as representatives of the Lord, right? Vaishnavas. How we should offer them something. If we don't have, Srila Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu that we should offer them. If you don't have water, you don't have a seat, you don't have food, at least offer them sweet words. So that's what Bhishma Dev is saying. And in his words, he's saying, I want to offer my thoughts. Now, in this, the 33rd verse, he says, Sri Krishna, the intimate friend of Arjuna. Just imagine, Arjuna is the one that put him in this circumstance, in this painful circumstance. Ananda Vrindavan was talking this morning in the class. She took the verse from, when Parikshit Maharaj garlands the rishi with a snake, and how she was trying to explain a very practical way. She said that the most important thing, many times it's emphasized that we should not offend devotees. We all know, right? We should not offend devotees. It's a mad elephant offense. But here it is also, she was expressing that offending devotees is a reaction. Many a times it's a reaction to being offended. Yes. So she's saying not only should you not offend devotees, but you should also not be offended by devotees. Right? What happened here? Parikshit Maharaj, he offended the devotee. He offended this rishi. He put the snake. Of course, the Bhagavatam says it was the Lord's will. and he's a pure devotee. It's the Lord's will. But you take it even in a regular circumstance. He offended a great rishi by garlanding him because he felt offended that, he made an assumption and felt offended that this sage is neglecting me and not offering me water when I visited his hermitage. He's acting so cold. Let me put this cold snake around his neck. Yeah. And so that of taking that offense, oh good Lord, I'm not answering ISKCON of DC's phone calls now. But so the whole thing was that he took offense. He took offense and then he offended. And what happens after that? Not only did he take offense and he offended, now his son decided to take his father's offense on his part. He was not even given the opportunity. Just see, you know, it's like I offended some devotee. And from that, the third devotee sitting in the corner felt offended. He took it personally and he decides to offend. So he decides to curse Parikshit Maharaj. Can you imagine this chain of offense? He has nothing to do. His father was offended by someone. And over there, the sage is thinking he didn't consider this as an offense. He just picked up the snake and threw it in the corner. It would have just stopped there, right? But this third person, the son, decides to get offended on behalf of his father. And what does he do? He ends up offending and cursing. Do you see the vicious cycle of offense? So it's not that we should only protect ourselves from committing offenses to devotees, but what's also crucial, we should protect ourselves and our consciousness from being offended, from taking that to benefit. Just brush it off. It's not a big deal. You're not, even Krishna ignores offenses, you know. And the beautiful pastime over there where Brigumuni decides to test Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. He decides to test that who is the greatest amongst all, right? So he goes to Lord Shiva and he starts to accuse Lord Shiva. What unclean person you are. You hang out with, the bhutas and pretas. Look at what your association looks like. You scrub the ashes from the crematorium. You're unclean all the time. Lord Shiva becomes so offended and he decides to kill him. And Bhrigumuni runs. Then he goes to Lord Brahma. Yes. And even Brahma becomes offended because otherwise I'm not going to go through this whole. But then he goes to Vishnu. Now, he only offended Lord Shiva with words, but Vishnu, he kicks Lord Vishnu on his chest. He physically also offends. What does Lord Vishnu say? What does he do? He actually says that, my dear sage, my chest is so hard. I hope your feet were not hurt. And at that moment, it was declared that Lord Vishnu is extremely great. Why? Because of his ability to not take offense. But at there, Lakshmi Devi sitting at the lotus feet of Vishnu, she curses. She decides to take offense. And she curses all the Brahmanas that may you always live a poverty-stricken life. May I always be chanchal with you. That's why Brahmanas struggle with accumulating finances. That is a curse of Lakshmi Devi. But just see that chain. And similarly over here, Bhishma Dev, he is talking about that he has appeared. Even though this is the Supreme Personality of God, he is now saying that you have appeared to this earth. How? He didn't take an earthly body. In your transcendental body only you have appeared, which resembles, now he goes into the beautiful description of the beautiful form of the Lord. How does your body look? The bluish color of a tamal tree. Yes, tamal varanam. Prabhupada, many times it is mentioned the bluish color of a rain cloud. But if you look, sometimes in the tamal tree, you'll see shades of blue. It's beautiful. There's a tamal tree in the courtyard of Chapati Temple. And I actually was very curious. I was trying to see if it really has some shades of blue. But it does. The tamal tree has some shades of blue. May this glittering yellow dress and your lotus face covered with what? Paintings of sandalwood pulp become the object of my attraction. May I not desire any other fruitive results. So, this is the consciousness of someone who wants to give up his body, right? He's saying that, may I continuously meditate on your beautiful form of completely being absorbed in your beautiful lotus-like face, covered with paintings of Gopi Chandan that we offer to Radha Madhav, that we offer to the deities. And, it's amazing that the relationship Bhishma Dev had with Krishna was that of chivalry, right? And it is explained, the acharyas explained that even the arrows, when they were piercing his body, he felt like it was, a relationship of a lover approaching his beloved. And so even amongst this whole circumstance, he's admiring the beauty of Krishna. Because usually between lovers, the first thing that you see is the beauty. You see the physical attraction also comes in first. So here he's seeing the beauty of Krishna and he's saying, let me meditate on this beautiful form, the bluish complexion, the glittering yellow dhoti, the bluish complexion like the tamala tree, and the sandalwood pulp. He's actually talking about the physical beautiful form of the Lord. Very significant, actually, how you read in Kunti Maharani's prayers, she's talking about the protection of the Lord. She's talking about how the Lord continuously protected, rather than, and how his relationship with his mother, his relationship with others, relationship with her sons. Here, Bhishma Dev is talking about the beauty of the Lord. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually says, in his commentary to this purport, that Bhishma Dev is recalling that, he had this relationship with Krishna where even when he was fighting with Arjuna, he was seeing Krishna as the chariot driver. He's noticing Krishna's intense yellow dhoti sparkling as the sun's rays as he stood on Arjuna's chariot. He noticed never once addressed Krishna directly in these prayers, even face to face. Yes, showing his absorption in Veera Rasa, the mood of chivalry savoring the Lord's sweetness from within rather than speaking of to him. So there are many kind of admiring, if you read Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, there's an ocean of ways you can love the Lord, right? So even in Madhurya Rasa or even in Aishwarya, you will see that within that you have Virya Rasa, where Virya Rasa you have, even in Virya Rasa, there is an option where you can be expressive of your feelings and admire the Lord. And here, Bhishma Dev chose, while he was witnessing the beautiful form of the Lord, he chose to admire the Lord's sweetness within his heart. Not necessary that it always has to be expressive. It could also be internal. That's what it means. There is no escape, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. There are ways to love and develop a relationship with Krishna. No matter what kind of category you fit in, there is ways to love and develop a relationship with Krishna. So in this third verse, he's still meditating. Now just look, he's still mesmerized by Krishna, how the lovers are usually mesmerized. Like I ran my hand through her hair, and her beautiful eyes. She was wearing this white dress, and you know how poets talk about love songs. And so here I found his prayers always like, he's actually now, not that he's just talking about his beautiful form. Now look what he's talking about. On the battlefield where Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, right? Like he took the position of the chariot driver. The flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised from the hoofs of the horses. And that's mesmerizing for Bhishma Dev. That's the vision he has. And because of his labor, the beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind go unto Sri Krishna. Yes. So now he is visually remembering the beautiful vision that he saw. He's talking about Krishna's long hair, how the dust from the hoofs of the horses, the sweat on Krishna's, and he acknowledges that he was actually trying to shoot arrows at Krishna, and how that smeared with the sweat was actually intensifying. So Bhishma Dev's worship here actually looks like violence, doesn't it? But, when is it that we find, and I was thinking that when does it that the Lord's love for me appears as violence in my life? Many, many times Krishna takes away things from us and we start blaming Krishna, right? There was a wonderful couple practicing Krishna consciousness, and they lost their 5-year-old daughter due to, she just developed a temperature, and 3 days down, she was, she had brain dead. She was declared brain dead, and all her organs started to fail slowly and gradually. And they completely at that moment were losing faith. And I actually remembered my notes from this verse, where I had actually put down that when can I practice this? Krishna showed by example, and Krishna actually picks up the chariot wheel to charge at Bhishma Dev. And he's constantly, this very picture that I have there, This is what he talks about, that I'm mesmerized by Hugh coming charging at me with this chariot wheel. So it may appear as violence. It may appear that Krishna is taking things away from me. Some things in our life may appear as violence, but can we look at it from a perspective that that is actually a loving reciprocation? And can we actually find ways of making sure we understand that it is the loving reciprocation of the Lord? How can we actually do that? These are practical ways of how Bhishma Dev took that violence, physical violence on the battlefield, as truly being, um, and of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes a very intimate sexual relationship where he says, just as a woman who inflicts deep wounds upon her beloved with her nails and teeth uh, during a battle of love cannot be said to be devoid of love for him. Bhishma Dev was actually experiencing those arrows in the same way. Bhishma Dev was experiencing, the Krishna was experiencing Bhishma Dev's arrows in that way. And Bhishma Dev was experiencing the wheel or the charging of Krishna in the same way. Similarly, how can we experience the so-called perceptions of, violence against us as a loving reciprocation of Krishna? It's not easy. That's why they are Mahajans, you know. It's difficult to follow in their footsteps, but it is something that we can aspire for. And it's something that we can try to imbibe. When we are put into a circumstance like that, we can think about this. And this may give us the strength to continue with faith. It is our responsibility as practicing devotees to somehow maintain our faith in Krishna, in the devotees, in Guru, and in the process of bhakti. It is our primary responsibility to maintain our faith. Secondary is everything else. Everything else we do is to support that faith, right? We go to the temple. Why? Because it strengthens our faith. We chant. Why? Because it helps us. It's going to strengthen our faith. We hear Srimad Bhagavatam. We hear these pastimes. Everything is to strengthen our faith. So when circumstances come and they shake our faith, we need to clasp onto verses like these and prayers like these to strengthen our faith and to protect us. Sometimes it's not just about strengthening our faith, it's about protecting our faith. When we protect, can we strengthen? Right? Sometimes we're at that stage that, we're just ready to give up. I want to have nothing to do with Krishna. There was a funny incident. One of the one of my very close friends, she said, I'm going to stop chanting. I'm just done. I'm just done. Ever since I became a devotee, the obstacles in my life have increased. I was so peaceful before I was. Have any of you experienced that? That problems in your life increase? I don't know. I experienced it too. But it was just a whole nother set of problems. And so she said, I'm just done. And she was practicing, she was chanting. But somehow Krishna doesn't leave you. So she stopped coming to the temple. She stopped. And then one fine day, she showed up and she called me. I used to call her off and on, just, okay, would you like to just hang out or just, go somewhere, maybe for lunch or something? And she said, Krishna is not leaving me. It's just, I said, what happened? She said, my professor in university, his name is Krishna. And then every time I go, I'm reminded of Krishna. Then she said, the other day I went and somebody said, in Hindi, they said, ki, let's go for a round, like just let's go for a walk. एक बिल्डिंग के यहाँ पर राउंड लगा के आते हैं. So she said, and then I started to think about 16 rounds. And and she just kept going on with these examples. And she's like, Krishna is just not leaving me. No matter what I'm doing, every nook and corner, I'm reminded of the process of bhakti. And I said, you're blessed because it's good that you absorb the process in such a way that Krishna is reminded. And, Mother Malati was just visiting us in Sacramento. And she told me I was just asking about the different devotees when I lived in New Vrindavan. And I said, how is Mother Dhara? And she said, Mother Dhara passed away. And Mother Dhara was someone that it's not important for me to complete these verses, but it's important for me to share this with you. So I'm just going to share because she said Mother Dhara, she was like totally like, when I was living there, I was thinking she's crazy because she was just short-tempered. But she was very, very particular about her service. She made the Mangal Bhog offering every single day. She made the 4 o'clock offering. Then she would stay awake late at night, boil the milk, the kheer for the offering. She would make cheesecake. And, in New Vrindavan, they don't use Philadelphia cream cheese. They would whip paneer and make cream cheese and make cheesecake with that. So, extensive. And she was elderly. She'd been living in New Vrindavan for 30 some years. And she would snap at you if you asked her anything, oh, Madhara, is there anything? She would just like, so everybody knew she was like little off. And we would actually joke. We would say that there was a talk, oh, Madhara is going crazier, she's going crazy. And she's actually started, and we used to say, oh, is she taking her medication? Is she not taking her medication? She's getting crazier. And we left New Vrindavan, and then Mother Malti was saying that, she's actually started to get crazier. So the temple president said that she cannot live in the temple anymore. She was starting to become violently crazy. So they called her son and they said, please take her. We can't keep up with her. In the ashram, she's not able to cohabitate with other ashram mates. So she left. And for a moment, I was feeling so bad. I said, oh my God. And she said, that's not the end of the story, Govinda Priya. And I said, what happened then? She said her son was really nice. He was taking care of her, but he had to work. So he locked her up. He used to lock her at home and he used to go to work so that she doesn't leave, randomly. But one day she just left. She just opened the door. She left. She started to walk on the highway. And the cops got hold of her. And the cops are asking her name. And she remembers nothing. She says, Hare Krishna. Then they said, where do you live? She says, Hare Krishna. And she says, what do you do? She says, Hare Krishna. And she's only chanting Hare Krishna. The cops finally bring her to Columbus Temple because now her son used to live in Columbus. She's one of you people. And, and Krishna brings her back to the temple and she leaves her body. Just gradually down the line. And at that moment, Mother Malti and I said, we thought she was crazy. No, she was absolutely sane. She may be crazy in terms of the worldly or by medical situations, and we have to deal management wise, but Krishna never leaves you. He appeared. There were devotees present chanting for her. Even though she was she lived in the ashram all her life, she was not prepared to be with the devotees at the passing. But no, devotees appeared. They were chanting for her. She remembered nothing else other than Krishna. And she said, I have no doubt that Prabhupada has taken her because her mind was completely fixed. She knew nothing else. There was no scope of remembering anything else. So Krishna doesn't leave you, and that's what Bhishma Dev over here is actually emphasizing. That absorption of mind, he's meditating. Now he goes in, he's now thinking, when he's thinking about. So in the previous verse, if you see, here it says, where Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, right? Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna, not because he had to, because he did that out of his loving reciprocation, out of friendship. Now, what is Bhishma Dev saying over here? In obedience to the command of his friend. What command? He was not commanded to do anything, right? But Prabhupada also, yes, Sakhi Vacha. He's saying because of the command of the friend. In fact, so Krishna, here he's saying that Krishna has actually taken a subordinate position and he's accepting the commands of his friend. Lord Krishna entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjuna and Duryodhana. This is where the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, right? Arjuna tells Krishna, please take me between the two armies. Let me see who is there on the other side. Right? And simply by seeing these great warriors, his mind and heart overwhelmed. Right? And while there, he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. There are two paradoxes in this particular verse. Just see. The first is that Krishna acted in obedience. That Krishna is actually not the doer. It was Arjuna that was the doer. And because of Arjuna saying, Krishna followed what Arjuna wanted, right? And then what is happening? And then the next third sentence, what is he saying? That it's not Arjuna that shortened the lifespans. The Lord here, simply by glancing upon the armies, he already shortened. And the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says, Arjuna, you just do your part. These people have already been killed. See, they're entering into the Virat Rupa. Just see that both the paradoxes are true. Arjuna did command and Krishna did follow, but that's the reciprocation in a loving relationship. When there is loving relationship, who do you say that is subordinate, the husband or the wife? It's a loving relationship. There are moments in certain aspects I can be subordinate to my husband, and in many aspects my husband says, oh my God, I'm subordinate all the time. So in a loving relationship, that's the paradox that has been brought out here, that he's saying that, okay, Krishna is obedient, but no, Krishna is not the doer. But no, actually, Krishna is the doer. Krishna is the one that by the glance shortened the lifespan of the opposite party. This was simply done by looking at the enemy. Let me fix my mind on that Krishna. Yes. It's amazing how, their internal emotions actually come out in the prayers. And that, it's the same thing that I put down here as a discussion question. He says, Prabhupada says even Krishna's opponents on the battlefield received mercy by seeing him at death. Right? It is said that everybody that was on the battlefield witnessed Krishna while leaving the body. That's the goal of our life, that we may have remembrance of Krishna. And by default, everybody that was there on the battlefield was seeing Krishna. Where might you be misreading a difficulty in our own life as unfair? Similar lines. Where are we misleading? When it might be actually carrying a hidden mercy. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I love Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this Bhishma Stuti, and I've included that a lot in my. He says that simply looking and naming them, this is Bhishma, this is Drona, this is Karna. Krishna was ending their life. Right? When Krishna was standing between the two phalanxes, between the two armies, and he's telling, Arjuna's asking, who else is there? He said, this is Bhishma. This is Drona. This is Karna. He was ending their lives by removing the accumulated karma, so that those who saw them on the battlefield would attain their original spiritual forms after the death. He completely eradicated all their karma. And they were blessed by the audience of Krishna. Let's look at this verse. When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance, because it was the Lord's will that he becomes overwhelmed so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Right? When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance upon observing the soldiers and the commanders before the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attention. He started the first verse with thinking, feeling, and willing. And in every verse, he is ending with the same determination that may his lotus feet, may this beautiful form of the Lord, may this vision of the Lord be in my constant remembrance. So the overall theme of Bhishma Dev's prayers is certainly that let me now narrow my focus, forget about everything, keep removing, the unwanted things in life. And Srila Prabhupada was explaining one time, he said, that's a sign of a person naturally passing away. They start to become slightly detached. Even from the bodily functions, they start eating less, they start drinking less, and less and less and less to the point that they don't eat and drink at all. Similarly, Bhishma Dev is now preparing his consciousness by removing everything, and just you can feel that he's now just focusing, narrowing his focus only on Krishna. And similarly here in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, he points out that Arjuna's loss of intelligence was caused by the Lord himself. It wasn't that Arjuna was getting bewildered. He fought the Virat Yuddha with all of these people, right? Right before, before when they were in exile, and that 1 year when they were under, they were undercovers living in Virat, where Arjuna had become a eunuch, right? A dancing Brihanala. After that, they all attacked because when they saw that they figured out, Duryodhan figured out that actually, the Pandavas are there. Let's find them and send them again to Agyatavas, send them again to exile. But at that time, that's why they attack Virat, the kingdom of Virat, from both the sides. So the king of Virat goes on one side, and the son is supposed to go fight with all these people. At that time, Draupadi tells the son of Virat that please take Brihanala with you. And Brihanala, in the form of Arjuna, fights. He discloses himself as Arjuna because the time is up now. And he fights all of these Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, all of these people, he fights. He was not overwhelmed then. He fought his grandfather, he fought his teacher, he fought everybody. But now, because of Krishna, his loss of intelligence was because of the Lord, since real confusion is impossible for his eternal associate and avatar. And the same thing is emphasized when Parikshit Maharaj becomes bewildered. By what? We say we become hangry. We're hungry and we become angry. He was thirsty and hungry and tired. And his hangry was putting a snake around the neck of a sage. His way of expressing hangry. So Krishna arranged it deliberately in order to reveal the Bhagavad Gita. Does anybody have anything to add? Please feel free to unmute. I don't want to just go on as a monologue. We're actually at almost an hour, but did anybody have anything to add or share or some reflections or anything of that sort?
I have something interesting that I've noticed.
Uh-huh.
So throughout the verses we read this week, um, a lot of like the theme was like relationships. We hear Dev talk about Krishna as Arjuna's intimate friend, and then friend again, and then um, out of affection for Arjuna, he takes the role of the charioteer and takes his order. And then goes back to Bhishma Dev being in a servitorship relationship with Lord Krishna. And to me, I wouldn't think throwing arrows at Krishna would be considered that, but it was interesting how it was compared to throwing petals to the Lord. So it just really shows how unique and personal our own relationship with Lord Krishna can be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually a beautiful pastime. I can't remember the details, but I should get you the details. I think it's rather Madan Mohan, or it's rather Govinda. They were deities. They were being worshipped in the line of Advaita Acharya by one of the. I should get you the details but I'm going to give you the gist. So they used to see the Lord. They had that natural Vatsalya bhav with Krishna, you know, and they were seeing the Lord. He used to actually sit with a stick. Okay, Krishna, please finish your meal. Like that's the way he would do the offering. He would sit with a stick. And just imagine our DD worship ministry would probably have a heart attack, if they hear and the way they would. Uh, I I can get the dough for you, Ananda. So, yeah, I was thinking the DD worship ministry would probably have a heart attack if they heard the way they would. He was worshiping the Lord in Vatsalya Bhava. You don't eat, you're going to get whipped, you know. And Rupa Goswami was doing Madhukari. I forget if it was Sanatan Goswami or Rupa Goswami, but one of the two. I'm going to look this up. Please, someone remind me. Just put it on the group so I can remember to do that. It's a beautiful pastime. And they were very sincere devotees, but they naturally were in Vatsalya Bhava. So when either Rupa Goswami or Sanatan Goswami come to do Madhukari, they notice that what is going on in this house, and then he gives a whole, understanding that this is an offense to the deity. You cannot, you have to worship. So they were very sincere. They said, okay, this Babaji is saying something. So please teach us how, if this is not the way to do the offering, what is the way to do the offering? So the Goswami, he actually teaches them the proper process. You offer the prayers, you do the mantras. So they start to follow, and the Lord appears in the dream of the Goswami. And he says, what did you do? I was having such a wonderful time in relationship with my devotee. You have completely messed it up now. Now you go back again tomorrow and tell that devotee to give me to you, because now he's not able to worship me with the same bhava. You completely messed our relationship. He's looking at me with, he doesn't know what to do. So you tell him to give me, and now you establish me in the temple. So it was one of our primary deities were established, and my memory is failing me as to whether it's Radha Govinda or it's Radha Madan Mohan. Maybe it's Radha Madan Mohan, but um, it's like every devotee has a unique relationship. Of course, we don't want to fake it. You know, you can see that by the sincerity of this devotee. He was willing to accept instruction from his senior, from a bona fide senior. Similarly, we don't want to fake it, but for our internal relationship, we will have these internal relationships with Krishna. And like Ananda Vrindavan, she was just sharing this morning. She said, when I was preparing for this class, because she was talking about how not to be offended is also very important, equally important, if not more, to not offending. They're both similarly important. She said at that point, a rumor about me in the devotee community just started off. And I was supposed to prepare for this. This is just a couple weeks back. And she said, in my mind, she said, I'm Irish. I was raised by a general. I'm quite thick-skinned, but this really got to me. And then I was like, I was trying to navigate through these rumors about me and, as a temple president and manage road problems and this and that. And she said, and I sit down preparing for this verse, and I think, Krishna, seriously? Now you want me to live it? It's easy to say this verse, but Krishna, now you want me to live it before I can say this in class. And she was expressing that. And I thought that whole class became so real for all of us sitting there, because she expressed that, so you see how Krishna says, okay, you're going to talk about this, then you better practice it before you talk about it. So he's going to give us moments to do that. He's going to give us opportunity to practice this, so that we're able to refine, so we can have this internal relationship with Krishna. We can argue with it. I was like, Krishna, seriously, like, come on, stop, give me a break. So that's our relationship. We can have that internal relationships, and that's where we can go from loneliness to solitude, because we're strengthening our relationship. We're talking to Krishna through prayers. We're talking to Krishna through expressing our innermost desires. We're expressing to Krishna through our failures, through our struggles. We're expressing to Krishna that, I need help with this. We know we need help. We don't want to express it to everyone. We don't want to be vulnerable in front of everyone, but we can be vulnerable in front of Krishna, because we know he's our well-wisher. He's not going to manipulate our weaknesses. He's not going to take advantage of my weaknesses. Some of us might take advantage of each other's weaknesses because of our own limitations, but we know Krishna's not going to do that. And 38. Oh, and that's it. So we'll quickly look at 38. May he, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds. To someone it may seem so graphic, but he's actually relishing this beautiful form of the Lord. He's enjoying the beauty of the Lord in such a way. So, we'll continue to read the next 7 verses, but try to pick out something that you really, really stands out to you, even in Bhishma Dev's prayers, and try to find some practical tangents. When you start doing that smaranam and then the pathanam, and the very reason that I want that you should share, because the easiest way to learn is to teach. There's a concept called as teach to learn in management, that anytime you hear something, just speak it. Like I really wanted, there's few points that over this weekend when I heard from Gauranga Prabhu and Ananda and Madan Gopal, they give classes on And I was like, I have to use them somewhere. I have to speak it somewhere. I found you all as my guinea pigs. So find a guinea pig and speak it somewhere, because that's going to reinforce it into your mind and hearts. And just find someone. Talk about Krishna. Talk about and absorb it in your, there's nothing more powerful than hearing and then speaking and then meditating, meditating on that concepts. Now go ahead. Like what I'm going to do, as soon as I get some time, I'm going to find another verse, like, where someone was, a third party decided to become offended. Like I was just thinking that. And Chitraketu Maharaj came and he's having a joking relationship with Lord Shiva, and Parvati becomes offended, right? And what happens? She curses Chitraketu. Now, at that moment, if Chitraketu also becomes offended, he had the ability to counter curse. He was actually a very powerful person, powerful devotee of the Lord. Not only did he have the ability, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, not only did he have the ability to counteract that curse, he also had the ability to curse in return. But he decided not to be offended, right? He decided to take that and live it. That is why he is glorified in the pages of Bhagavatam. Even though he made an inappropriate comment, he is glorified in the pages of Bhagavatam. So the same thing. Now sit and think, which are the verse, which are the pastime, and how that ties into me. So powerful. And when we start doing that on a regular basis, our mind is going to become saturated with this. And then when actually somebody comes and offends us, it becomes easier. You know what? It's not important. The mind is full with Krishna. So what does it really matter if Dula said a few 10 things about me? It doesn't really matter. It's insignificant, right? In the scope of the larger picture. I'm going to let you go. It's 7:08 Pacific Standard Time. Keep me in your prayers. I have a very difficult presentation to make in a little bit. So I would appreciate your prayers. But thank you so much for your association. And thank you so much for your sincerity. I mean, your showing up is giving me the inspiration to not only read, but to share. And like I said, make you as my guinea pigs. Nice transcendental varahas, though. But thank you. And find your own. I'm willing to be yours. So find a day that you want to present something, and I'll be there wanting to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Ji. Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Anybody has
Mataji.
any other? Okay, we can just offer obeisances then. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo. Jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna. See you all next week.
See you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.